So in this video, we will be going over Photoseries 2, which includes the ventral structures and the 12 cranial nerves of the sheep brain. Here in the most anterior part of the brain are the pre-sylvian gyri and sulci. These are the olfactory tracts, and we can see the lateral olfactory tract and medial olfactory tract quite well. If we follow these tracts posteriorly, we will reach the piriform lobes, and the most ventral part of the piriform lobe is the uncus, or also known as the periamygdaloid cortex. Dorsal to the piriform lobes is the rhinal fissure, seen here. Posterior to the olfactory tracts, we can see the optic chiasm and the optic tracts. The optic chiasm is the point where the optic nerve and the optic tracts cross. Posterior to the optic chiasm, there is a little round bulge called the tuber cinereum, and in this hole within the tuber cinereum is called the infundibulum. This is where the pituitary gland, or hypophysis, was attached to the brain. Posterior to this, you will see another bump called the mammillary body. An interesting thing to note is that the sheep brain only has one mammillary body, whereas the human brain has two. Now we will move on to the structures of the brainstem. The prominent bulge seen here is the pons, and posterior to the pons is the trapezoid body. Posterior to the trapezoid body, you will find two massive fiber bundles called the pyramidal tracts, which run along either side of the ventral median fissure. The olive is located lateral to the pyramidal tract, and the most posterior part seen here is the spinal cord.
Remaining on the ventral side of the brain, we will now introduce the 12 cranial nerves, starting from the most anterior part of the brain to the most posterior part. The olfactory nerve is the first of the 12 cranial nerves. The nerve is extended to the olfactory bulb from tissues inside the nasal cavity. Thus, it is a secondary nerve receiving information regarding the sense of smell. Although it is not distinctively shown here, posterior of the olfactory nerve is the optic nerve, which usually branch out from the optic chiasm, forming the optic nerves, optic chiasm, and the optic tracts usually form an extractor shape with the extractor shape. Optic nerve is a part of the peripheral nervous system, while the optic tracts are part of the central nervous system. Now, if we locate the tuber cinereum and the mammillary body and move posterior from it laterally, we will see the oculomotor nerves. Although the name ocular suggests the eye, oculomotor nerves function as motor nerve, innervating the movements of the eyes. Looking from the side view on either side, trigeminal nerve, which will be introduced in a moment, is usually blocking another nerve behind it. This nerve is called the trochlear. Trochlear nerve is the only nerve out of the 12 that exit the brain from the dorsal side, while the other cranial nerves exit the brain from the ventral side. The trochlear nerve is a motor nerve, and it also innervates the eyes. Next, as mentioned earlier, we have the trigeminal nerve. It is the largest nerve on the brain, and its largeness is due to many muscles of mastication that it has to innervate, and the large amount of information received from the face. Next, we have the abducens nerve. The abducens nerve is located between the pons and the trapezoid body. We will find it is a motor nerve, also innervating the eyes. Next, if we trace the groove between the pons and the trapezoid body down laterally, we will be able to find a pair of nerve, although it's not clearly shown here. The pair of nerves is located behind a trigeminal nerve, and they contain the pair is made out of the facial nerve and the vestibular cochlear nerve. The facial nerve both functions in both motor and sensory, and is anterior to the vestibulocochlear, which is also called auditory vestibular nerve, which is a sensory nerve responsible in audition. Moving towards the posterior of the brain, we can see another two nerves. They are glossopharyngeal and the vagus. So as you can see, the glossopharyngeal nerve is anterior to the vagus nerve. They exit the brain in the same location adjacent to each other. Both the glossopharyngeal nerve, both the two nerves function as, the two nerves have both motor and sensory functions. The most posterior cranial nerve is the spinal accessory nerve. It is lateral to the ventral median fissure and posterior to the vagus nerve. It is closer to the spinal cord and is a motor nerve innervating the muscles of the neck. Lastly, we have the hypoglossal nerve. It is the 12th nerve of the brain. Interestingly, it is located anterior of the spinal accessory nerve and lateral to the ventral median fissure. It innervates the tongue, and thus it is a motor nerve. And that concludes the Photoseries too.